Yes, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back. It is a more regular building up to an actual real game at the weekend, Thursday Night Forum, and I'm proud and happy to have some of my more familiar faces that I like to. I love everybody on the bus, but these guys are making a comeback. You go to your blood, and these are the guys that are the bread and butter of this forum. So why not try to fix something that isn't broke? It's Thursday Night Forum. You're live on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Wherever you're going to be taking part or where you just want to watch and listen, it doesn't matter to us. If you haven't done it already, take 2 seconds, flip over, give us a wee thumbs up. If you like what we do, share the video. You can even share it on your socials if you want to go a wee bit mental. Just helps get the algorithm down, get more folk in the door, get the bus rolling. If you want to be a Boise Bus member, you can, of course, do that. It's completely voluntary. It's a measly $1.99, but of course our content is the same as most Rangers and Scottish transfers. It's $3.99, costs you nothing, doesn't matter. All it does is help the man down below me run this, because even though our stuff's free, doing it isn't. So welcome back to everybody. As I say, familiar faces all round. First we get Phil McGinley there, the man who knows everything, and the quizmaster. The boss down below, so I better be in best behaviour. And a man who's never on his best behaviour, but that's part of the shtick. As of course, Marc Kearney. Guys, collectively, how are you?
Yes, mate. Jamming.
All good.
That's what I like to hear. You see, we got nearly 100 in the comments already. It's good to see it. The numbers have been great. Pretty sure everybody's looking forward to the weekend as much as we are, and we'll start to touch on that. One last wee bit of housekeeping to do. Top corner, piesports.com. Get your body over there. Get yourself some match day munchies. Fire and Bus 1888 checkout. Get yourself a 12.5% discount on those munchies. Can't say better than that. There's no blue pills to promote, because ironically that kind of went limp. But pretty much the content here will get you hard enough. And if you can't be getting aroused by a new season round the corner, then you must be dead inside. Anyway,
how the fuck did I end up in this situation, Phil? Remember the old days? It was just me and you. I'm only joking. That was funny.
Anyway, listen, it's all fun and games. It's all let's go, right? So, as I say, listen, start, guys and girls, get your points in. What do you want to talk about? Put it over to us, and I'll fire it to the guys and let you get their words of wisdom or words of madness, however you want to chop it up, and we'll get into it. A few things to touch on, obviously. There's been a press conference for the man with the pearly whites. I'm sure we'll touch on that, and I'll ask the boys here talk and take points on it. So, what did you guys think it? Give your thoughts on it in there. And I've had a rough bit of a midweek game, the Jamesy testimonial there. The only person I've not really spoke about it is Phil. So, Phil, I want to know, just to kick us off, what did you think it, mate? Was there any takeaways for her? Was it much like has been said amongst the group? And, Russell and I, it's a kick around.
Well, it felt like that Bilbao were certainly treating it a bit more than a friendly. I mean, even for their first goal, the celebrations were a bit, this is still a friendly, man. Come on, guys, a bit overdoing it a wee bit. But overall, second half was definitely better than the first half. But I thought Bernabei's goal was phenomenal. Like, if that happened in a competitive game, like that 1-2 play, that'd be up for like a goal of the month candidate. No problem at all. That was really nice. And the link between him and Matt O'Reilly. Overall, though, a win's a win. More minutes in the legs for guys. And it's just setting us up nicely. I felt we've had quite a productive pre-season, and as Brendan has said in his press conference today about assessing the squad, I think he's got a pretty good idea of what he's got at his disposal. So yeah, I felt it was a good exercise for them. Sadly, the weather was a bit pish for them on Tuesday night. It looked a bit torrential there, but they handled it pretty well. And second half performance, they looked pretty sharp.
No, was it? Yeah, I thought it set us up, didn't it, too badly? I mean, there we go. Was a name Bernabei there, Mark? Did Bernabei do anything impress you? Did he? Is the Mark? Is it the opinion swaying ever so? Or was that just daft talk?
No, I think he's absolutely fucking dug me, if I'm being honest with you. But it was a great goal. You still got to finish that passage of play, and I can't criticise that. The guy getting a great area in the park, and Brendan Rodgers actually referenced him as somebody who is good at getting forward, but needs more defensive work. And I'm glad he said that. That means he's willing to work with the boy. And I think, as I said last night, if he can bring the best out in players, then the attitude's got to be right. And maybe Bernabeu's got the right attitude. And he said this morning or the night that he spoke to Bernabeu in particular. So maybe he's got a future at Celtic, which is great. You know what I mean? And if he can find a player in amongst that cow dung, then I'd be absolutely delighted, Stevo, mate.
Well, he has. Listen, he's been known to convert, so who knows? We'll see what's happening. Is he going to feature at the weekend? Is it going to be Greg Taylor? Who knows? But listen, before we start to get right in the meat here, as I say, there was a press conference today, wasn't there? Our manager had some words to say. So let's have a wee chat about that. And let's let you guys tell us what you thought of it. I'll start with our manager, our boss. So tell me, Boycie, you've been happy with what he's been saying recently. You've liked his demeanour. You've liked how he's been. How do you take his words today?
Aye, Steve, I think I'm glad that you brought it up because I just feel like the last two pressers, he's just warming up a wee bit. A couple of wee shots across the bow, you could say. And I think his feet are now just getting a wee bit comfy under the table again. And he's sort of going, do you know what? Let's have a bit back. Today, for example, I just think these are wee snippets. They're not grenades that he's throwing, right? But they're just little, I don't know what you would call them. Remember those wee things you used to throw at the ground and they'd explode, Mark? Remember the wee things that were
bangers?
Bangers, aye. He's maybe throwing bangers, not quite grenades. But there was something about, you've took over this time a treble winning team. What is it? He goes, I won 2 of those. And he's saying it so to the point, like, just to remind you, I've won that twice, right? And I do think that I've seen it in the live chat already, the mixing up formations point that he was making. And I also do believe a lot of that was re-emphasising, I have a plan B. Your man before is plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, try plan A again. I think there's subtle... See if he is the sociopath that we've had. We kind of... I think 4 times in a podcast I've made this parody of Brendan over the last few years that cracks you up at times. You can't deny it. But if there is an element of truth in the sociopathic ways of him, I thought today was him, again, re-emphasising that the real sheriff's back. Not a new sheriff in town, but the real sheriff is back in town. And there was just the odd comparison he made that he's not talking about the Ange stuff, literally, but what the observations he's making about what he brings to the table were undeniable, in my opinion, kind of backhandles at what you've had over the last couple of years. I think so, anyway. I think he's cooking McGass now. I think he's just getting a wee bit more comfortable in his own space. I think there's almost a blessing in disguise that the Green Brigade went there, Stevo, at the James Forrest testimonial, because it gave him the opportunity for the other 40, 50,000 that were there for him to do all the hand waves and to be back to being the Messiah without any dissenting voices. And it's now over to you guys. Do you want to upset this? Harmony, the Holy Trinity, as he described it in his first phase as Celtic manager. And as I say, with the presser today, I felt I watched a guy who's just warming up and he's teasing now as well when it comes to transfers. I'm sure we'll talk about that. I'm sure loads of folk in the chat will want to bring up the transfer strategy and stuff because it does seem to be the focal point. He mentions that, and from what I took from it anyway, certainly, is this, the exact quote is, this is the best time to do it when it came to improving the squad. Funnily enough, I don't like to be Nostradamus on the bus. I kind of agree with him, and I've kind of said this the whole time. I felt August would be his month where you'll see Brendan signings coming in, but I'm watching a guy with the courage of his convictions just getting warmed up again at Celtic Park, and it's exciting, and it should be exciting because this is an upgrade on the manager that just delivered 5 out of 6 trophies. That's saying something.
No, that's the thing, as we say, can't fault him, can you? When you hear him speak, as we say, folk will like him or loathe him, like he's a Walter Mitty, he's a smooth operator, the way he talks, and it's all smoke and mirrors, but his words are always, he's firm in his conviction, he puts it out there.
He's engaging as well.
And more to the point,
he seems
cold and he seems relaxed. Yourself, Mark, when it came to, you've rightfully been a voice that sort of raised concerns maybe about where we are in terms of the quality that have been brought in, where we should be moving forward, and where you think we should be in terms of transfers in the door. And is this notion of holding off further down the line, is it a nonsense, or is it something in it. How do you feel after the past two sort of things that we've seen, the wee 1-to-1 where he did it with Sky Sports and then what we got today? Are you feeling a wee bit more confident that we're going to see the proper quality that we need, or are you still on the air of caution with that, mate?
No, it's a mixture of both, mate. I think he's said quite openly that he feels like the time to strengthen is when you're winning things. And I love to hear that today. I thought that was great because I'm always get this feel that Celtic start to hit the reverse button or at least the stop button. So that's great that he's got a mindset where we're at here, let's get to there. And listening to him speak today, I definitely feel like the bigger players are yet to come. And I think you might see the level of player ramp up, you know what I mean? And I've not been shy and complaining about the level of player not being up to scratch. Well, that's a lie. Not being up to what we're expecting by now. And I expect that after this game at the weekend, the players to be of a higher level. And I don't think that's kind of naughty of me to expect that. I just think maybe, as Russell said a while back, that the better players will take time to come in. And there's a lot of merit in that argument, but I'm just greedy. I want them in as early as possible.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Right.
Mark, I was going to say, but apart from Quan, because he strolled it, did he not, the other night?
Oh my God, man! I must have watched something different for other excellent positive there. No, but I just feel like Brendan Rodgers. You listen to him. I mean, and see, I watched tonight's press conference. I'm not going to lie, right? I can say it now that he's away. I didn't enjoy one press conference after the cough candy twist we had last 2 years. The guy just speaks class, Brendan Rodgers. He's got you sucked into the TV with his wee magic cloak, and you're just listening to every word he says. And I love the guy. Even when he was away, I still love the guy, and I'm delighted he's back. But he has put my mind at ease the last couple of days because one thing he said tonight is he knows fine well. I think he knows fine well the areas that need to strengthen. We've all said goalkeeper, fullback might be an issue. I think maybe striker might be an issue. And he also referenced the fact that there might be players gone, but there's a backup plan.
Coney, no.
Coney, no.
Coney, no, do that.
He's a quan artist, as Russell said. I'm glad he said that. Fuck.
Who's worse, Quan or Bernaby? You have to go and hang about with one all day.
Well, I want to go on a long drive with Bernaby, but I've only seen Quan for an hour. But you know, this is the thing. He's deserving this criticism by his stupid comments. I don't think we would have been as harsh on him had he just said to himself. He's in a circle, guys. Just say you're in a circle. Look, I'm better than this. 1 year and I'm out here. That's fine. That's just rent a flat. Don't buy a flat. But don't say to Celtic fans, seeing I come, don't get used to me. Because all my TV is still a bubble wrap. I'm not going to take you out the box. I just didn't want to hear it. Call me old-fashioned, but I want a Celtic player who's committed to Celtic. Or at least pretend you're. You know what I mean? But just don't tell me you can't wait to go out the door. When you meet a bird in the dance, you don't say, I can't wait to phone you a taxi at 4 o'clock because my man's coming home. I mean, you tell her it's going to be forever. You know what I mean? Then phone him a taxi.
Oh, you're not even screaming, man.
That's the best. That is the best comparison I've ever heard. Very quickly, I would say as well, with the Brendan in terms of the engagement, the one thing is, I feel anyway, Stevo, that when I listen to the Ange pressers, and we had to do it kind of as part of the bus for the episodes, I found it a struggle at times, the 15 minutes long. I'm listening for a nugget of a dig at the media. See, you're not listening to Brendan. I'm listening for what his take on the football is. Yep. And I know that's not discrediting Andy's knowledge of football, by the way, before it sounds too ex-girlfriend-esque. But undeniably, his press conference, he's not as engaging. He's not as good at listening. And when Brendan's talking about the football, I agree with Marc. I'm sitting playing pool on my stupid table, beating myself at it, and I'm stopping midway through playing. I'm going, go on. I'm listening to that. I'm engaged by what he's saying. Whereas Ange, I felt it was very run-of-the-mill stuff that he would say about the football, and then it would be a pop at the media, and you go, oh, what a nugget, what a throwback that, what a return to serve that was. I do feel there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, we said this when we were talking about managers and we were profiling before he even came in. And, it's not, as you said, it's not been disrespectful to the manager that's went before him, because when it came to getting the job done, certainly domestically, as we said, Europe's a different kettle of fish and all that, but he did what he needed to do, and our talking was done on the pitch largely. But I do agree, a big part, especially when you're, either at Celtic or you're at Rangers, the two big clubs, press conferences, they're a big part of they're a big part of what you do as the manager, and you put yourself out there. And it's not just the simple things about talking about the club, talking about the games ahead. You've got to be out there and you've got to sell the club. You've got to let people know what's happening. You've got to bring folk in and want them to get invested, and you want them to get interested. And for all that, Ange Postecoglou was very professional, and I thought he conducted himself well, and he was a good, good investment in the club. There's no doubt about it. It's different in approaches. Brendan Rodgers is the kind of guy you'd imagine if you trap up at the front door, but come on in and I'll show you around. And he'd want, he's sort of welcome, and he wants folk to listen. And he does, he enjoys holding court. He likes having people and he likes talking. But there's always substance to what he says. And he manages to strike that balance. He controls the narrative, but he talks a lot. Whereas, it was more flying away, swatting away, sort of a Postecoglou. But, for yourself, Phil, we spoke there about what he said, and Marc touched on it. A big thing he mentioned was he knew the positions. He identified, he mentioned that he'd identified positions, and he knew what we needed. Can you read into anything in the sort of players that we've seen pre-season, who's had a chance, who's not had a chance? Do you take anything for that? Well, no, let's state the obvious. So we could just go goalkeeper, striker, a solid midfielder stroke winger to replace Jota. We could do that at the cows come home. But did you see anything maybe outside that obvious sort of what's in front of your nose stuff? Did you read into his selections, or who didn't get featured?
Well, I think we've got more than enough wingers. Ironically enough, Brendan once upon a time did say, don't know why we're signing another winger. We've got 1 million wingers. So if I hear his link to another winger, I'm going to be going down the same route as him in 2019. Like, why another winger? At the moment, my own concerns in terms of one that I would look at is obviously right back, the injuries we've got at the moment. I know Ralston's came back from injury, but Johnston's still out very well. Even if it's a player in on loan or something like that, I think we need to just have those base covers, because you can get fullbacks as well that can play both sides that are two-footed. If we can find a player out there who can come in as a loan just to cover us in the event of injuries, because fullback areas are definitely a problem. I don't know, but like midfield's an interesting
left back on loan.
Well, yeah. I wonder if there's one out there. I wonder. And funny enough, I think he's also played right back as well for his national team a couple of times to accommodate for another left back, Boise. Might have as well. Maybe there's one out there. But central midfield, I think at the moment we've got more than enough bodies there. I think if Hatate goes late in the window, and I did see somebody mention in the chat somewhere about they're worried about Spurs coming in, which is always going to be a threat with Hatate. But if he was to go, I think we would have to, it might be a late scramble for that. But I think in terms of numbers we've got in the middle, I think we're quite covered there. But striker's definitely one that I think as well. Goalkeeper we've been talking about so much recently, and we've all said our piece regarding we feel we definitely need a new goalkeeper, and even if it's somebody just to put pressure on Joe Hart, not somebody that needs to come in and right away just oust him. I mean, that'd be obviously ideal. I mean, at the end of the day, it'd be an upgrade, but just somebody, because I feel like complacency set in with Joe Hart. Nobody's taking that shot off him, so that's what happens in the workplace. Same with football. You get complacent when you get comfortable. So somebody there, and I say striker right now, Kyogo, at times you still feel like he's made of glass. When he goes down injured, you're like, oh God, please don't be injured long term here. We still don't know enough about, I feel. I've still got high hopes for him, but it's still too early to say. And then after that, what you're looking at, Maeda could probably play through the middle going by what it is, but I still think as footballers, and Marc was right to say it, but we're greedy. Football fans, but we're greedy. We want another striker. Strikers are the ones that always get you the most excited when they come in the transfer window, because they are the guys that ultimately score the goals. They are the glamorous ones to sign. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see us get another striker in. Hopefully these are the positions that Brendan's identified. He's shown over the time. The guy's a smart enough man when it comes to managing the team. So he'll know all of these things. He'll have looked at that pre-season display and go, yeah, there's few years. What he said today, talking about he knows there's positions that are priorities right now. So I'd like to think all the ones that we've been talking about constantly are very much high on his list right now.
No, definitely. I brought up this comment there, Rooster, and the reason I brought it up is before we go into the obvious, and we'll look towards the weekend, we'll talk a wee bit about the notion of signings. Very good point, actually. We've all seen the wee flash videos of Ben Doak, looking quite good in a pre-season friendly, albeit against Bayern Munich, and showing that, it's all right, he only came on for 15 minutes, but it's showing real bit of guile for somebody's age, a bit of drive, a bit of power, and he's sort of slipping into that Liverpool side. So he's asked the question, but he says, surprised that journalists no asked him about Turnbull with such a short period left on his contract, as well as the likes of Vata. Are we going to let these guys walk, or do you think these are guys that certainly we should be looking to keep on? There's been, over the years, there's been youth that have slipped through the net. Some have done no bad for themselves, some have went into obscurity, but certainly Vata looks like he's one that I would like to keep around. I think he's an option that looks ready to be bled into the team at certain games. And obviously Turnbull, I've had my opinions on him before, but he's been featuring and he got a wee bit of the captain's armband for all that might matter in a testimonial. We've often says the likes of when that handed over the armband to certain players before they left, maybe that was a sign that they had purpose and they wanted him around. Yourself, Mark, those two names on the screen, is there anybody really at the club at this moment in time that you think we should try to retain as well as looking to get guys in? We spoke about folk we want ready, but what about folk that could leave but you'd rather keep?
Well, I think Vata, I think he looks like he could have probably a future at Celtic. Definitely. He's just joined the first team really relatively, and I've seen reports the other day there that he might be for off, and I went, oh God, no, another one. We lost a youth player of the day. I think he's highly rated. The boy's name I don't know, but we lost another one the day. Don't want to lose Vata. He's probably out of all the players that's come into the first team in the last couple of years, maybe even since Dembele's very first half hour show, and he's been the first youth player that I thought, like, you look really good, man. And I tried to keep him. Turnbull is a funny one for me. I think if he did a straw poll, it'd be 50-50. For me, I'm not a big fan of him, but I said at the very beginning, he's the type of player that just might work under Rodgers. I just think there could be a player there because he's slower on the ball, he's no shy to slow things down, and that might work in Europe. And we might have different teams for Europe, you know what I mean? At least different midfields and different setups.
Well, if we're going to try different setups, mate,
Sorry?
If we're going to be trying different setups.
Well, Carl McGregor said today that one of the big things I've tried pre-season, and he didn't get into details for obvious reasons, was the transitioning during matches from one game plan to another. And I thought it was interesting that he mentioned that. I felt like he mentioned that because it's maybe something we've not seen in the last couple of years. And I think we're no daft. We know there was one game plan with variations within it, but I think Brendan Rodgers has got game plans within game plans. And I think we've all watched Brendan Rodgers, where it's been Celtic or any other team, he's won matches for the dugout. And see a top class manager can win matches from the dugout. See if you can affect the play by standing at the side of the pitch and just tinkering, you're worth your weight in gold. And Brendan Rodgers can do that. If you look back to his first spell in charge at Celtic, his first season we only went behind something like 105 minutes. The full season, I calculated it, and one of the matches was at Fir Park. It was like 50 minutes. So the rest of the season there wasn't a lot of tinkering involved, but he won matches when it was still 0-0. He didn't have to reverse games. And the second season, which you referenced tonight, the football wasn't as good, but we also won matches for a losing position, and that's a great thing to have in Scottish football, because when we lose a goal in Scotland, what you find is it just reverts back to a back 10, and we can struggle against that. You know what I mean? I don't think keep on hammering that back line with hammers like last season. It doesn't always work. Eventually, you could become unstuck. Rodgers is getting more keys on his belt than what Ange Postecoglou did to unlock defences, and I'm looking forward to seeing that, because with the same level of players, which I think are maybe better all round than they had the last time, I think he might just elevate them all at a different level, and that's with foot digging in players. The exciting time starts now. The season's starting on Saturday. Let's get that out of the way first and enjoy it. But the new players that's going to come in is when you will see the exciting things happening, and I'm looking forward to it, definitely. And if Brendan Rodgers can't get you excited as a Celtic fan, then you're needing to rock up your ass because this guy is class act.
Yeah. No, that's the thing, boys. As we say, we're sort of talking about this variation and Rodgers and having plan and winning games for the bench. We've all seen it. The micro notepads being out rapid every single game.
Already. I love it.
He does his work and he makes it happen. We said after the Atletico game, friendly or not, that we kind of maybe thought in days or seasons gone by, going behind, we probably might not have bounced back the way that we did. There was obviously changes afoot and things were happening. So, do you think that the likes of guys like Turnbull getting, involved in the squad and what we've seen and him talking about needing these players, do you think we're going to get far more variation? And do you think that's what we were talking about whenever folk were sort of naysaying the idea Rodgers come back about going back, being a backstep, where we argued the toss that, he's a lot further down his development as a manager. He's probably going to come back with new tricks. You can teach an old dog new tricks, because that not the cliche thing that we saw some opposition fans where they were saying, our manager's, he's played against them before, he knows him inside out. Are we just getting a wee glimpse, a wee sort of, he's thrown it out there. There's going to be a new version of Celtic. There's going to be what but there's also going to be versions 2 and 3 that will be deployed as and when we need it.
I think there's two sides to management, Stevo. And I think we need to be real here. Ange had a style of play that dictated the profile of player he wanted. And I actually think there's two different prisms, and folk can say what one's better. That's up to them to decide. Ange wanted the physical attributes. He wanted pace. He wanted an engine. I think Rodgers is far more palatable to takers, first and foremost. I think he goes, I will sprinkle pace around my team, but I want ballers on the team. David Turnbull's biggest flaw is he had zero pace. See, if you actually look back over any critique that Celtic fans gave David Turnbull over the last sort of 2 years, it would be, he'll not make it as an Ange player because he's got no pace. Pace would be the first thing folk would mention. Now, I think genuinely, if Ange had his way, he would have 11 Dies and Maeders. I'm not convinced that gets the best results, but I think for Ange's system, he would have 11 guys of that pace, that energy, that work rate, and he would give it his all, and he would play the same way. And that would be, he'd be happy with that. I think Rodgers will look at 11 players individually more and go, what's your best traits that you can bring to the team? And if that means you might not have pace, but actually your creativity or your goal scoring touch in the case of Turnbull is something I focus on. And that blended with these guys that have got the pace, the intensity, the press on their mind all the time, we'll be able to balance it out more. And that is not a slight on Ange, by the way, because as I say, it's horses for courses. Managers view it very differently. Each guy has their own mind, their own philosophy, their own way of wanting the team to stand out and do the best they possibly can. I happen to think, though, Ange's were more about, firstly, the physical profile, and I don't mean Bobo Balde's. I mean the physical profile of he wanted that pace, that intensity off them, every single player. But I think Rodgers will be more not wanting the same work rate as such, but he'll be more open to, okay, you can't run, I can run quicker than you, but how good are you with the ball at your feet in space? And I think you look at Tom Rogić's career. I mean, I know Tom had a sort of, how would you describe it? His last season at Celtic was a bit of a, I can't even think of the term now. There is a term. Swan song season. That's it, Mark. Well done. But you actually look at Rogic's input under Brendan first couple of years. I mean, it's not like he lost a yard of pace under Ange. He was the exact same pace. He was one pace. But he was so effective under Brendan because the pace came from other areas of the park. And I just feel that Turnbull has an opportunity under Brendan to now start kicking on again. And I think he'll be given that. I'm not saying necessarily it'll be he's a regular first-team starter, but I don't think Brendan will be looking for the same things from all 11 of his players as what maybe Ange did. I think Ange was kind of, do you know what, not even a criticism. He was kind of in your face. I am one-dimensional. This is how I play.
He was unapologetic about how he done it.
Plan B is plan A, and the guys I want need to be a million miles an hour. I think Brendan's far more flexible. Now, others could say, well, maybe you could lose your way doing that, and being just completely tunnel vision on what your viewpoint is better. That's up for a different debate. I think though guys like Turnbull's, O'Reilly's, really might come before. And I hasten to add, I think Giakoumakis would certainly be part of a Brendan's plans, and that is the one that really got away. I think it would be a downgrade on Dembele, but that would have been his version in 2023 of Dembele. But we'll see what happens at the transfer window because there's still 3 weeks to go.
Of course. See, on that notion, Phil, as we say, about having different styles of play and what we can do in adapting and seeing the strengths of guys that maybe were out of the picture under Ange. As I said, Ange was unapologetic. No one's going to sit here and criticise his style with some great times, with some great games. But as we say, it was, all hands to the pump. It was all go. And as great as that can be, as we're seeing, from domestic where you maybe, swat aside teams. And in Europe, we got, plaudits, maybe not necessarily points, and there was flashes on it. Let's face it, the big measuring stick that everybody's going to do is, as he said, time again, bread and butter is the league, right? We know that and we accept that, but at the same time, fans are kind of looking beyond that. It is almost an expectancy, and I would put myself out there now and say I would still expect that Rodgers team at the moment, if that's what it was for him, to still get enough out of the tank to do it domestically. It's going to come down to Europe, isn't it? So what do you think we're going to get from there? And I'm bringing it up because I'm seeing it in the comments, folk are saying, we didn't adapt the first time round. We took Scuddins off, Barcelona, and it was we'll learn for it. Well, we didn't, did we? Because, then there was Scuddins for PSG and the like. So it goes without saying, you can argue the cows come on. Did we learn? Did we adapt in his first tenure? Well, you could argue probably not. But what do you think we're going to see, and how do you think we should manifest that? It was great trying to go forward and go to teams. The term's pragmatic. Does pragmatic mean boring? But do you think by slowing it down, and as Russell said, focusing maybe on things like players' technical ability, their passing, how they can contain, slow a game down, is that the key that's going to pick us up points in Europe? But then when the time is right, using the quick runs and the intelligent runs of Kyogo rather than just going hammer and tong?
It's this $1 million question, isn't it? It really is. With because I same as you, I see a lot of people mention it, and this is the measuring stick. The European thing was concerning the first time around, but the difference is this time, obviously, he's had a good few years back down in England with Leicester. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure during his time at Leicester, he was in the semi-final of a European competition. We lost to Roma, Jose Mourinho's Roma, I believe it was, that beat him. I know it's a Conference League, but at the end of the day, it's still a European semi-final. It's better than what we've achieved in Europe in recent years anyway. So I think he will have adapted. Obviously, yes, we've got to take into account Leicester, Premier League team. They've obviously got a bigger budget, bigger wages, and that better. Well, I'd say better overall squad than compared to what we play or what we've got up here, because they are a Premier League team. But at the same time, you've got to think he's got to have picked up a few tricks along the way, a few tactics that he can adapt here to say get to a semi-final. Europe's still a decent achievement, regardless of the level of competition. So I'd like to think that he'll be coming in and doing that, because as much as a spectacle the Champions League is, we all get up for it and we all love it, and the music's amazing and stuff. I go back to if I was talking to somebody earlier today about this one, like, I was there when we got humped off PSG at Celtic Park, and as good as PSG were on the night, it wasn't exactly very pleasant sitting there and watching them put 5 goals past us. No. Then, of course, think of the people who travelled to France for the second leg and watched us lose 7 goals. It's like, look, I know these teams are like gargantuan in terms of the money they've got and the players they've got, but we've still got to put up some kind of fight. We were just rolling over and dying at times in the previous attempts in Europe under Brendan. Barcelona in the first season. So every time Barcelona came forward that night, they kept scoring. It was about 7-0, was it on the night? 7-1? Oh, it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully he's learned a few tricks. And also, again, this is something that's so typical of Celtic. We go from one extreme to another. We look at like those doings we're taking. And then there's the other thing where, as I describe it, as Celtic doing Celtic things in Europe. The game against Bayern Munich in his second season, where we were excellent on the night at Celtic Park. We thoroughly thoroughly deserve something. The momentum was building all night. We finally got an equaliser. We got a foothold back in the game. And then, as I say, Celtic do Celtic things in Europe. And they just switched off. And a minute later, we were 2-1 down again. Lost the game 2-1. So I say we go from one extreme to another. Try to find a balance somewhere in the middle to get us those results and make us compete against these teams and not just get overawed by the situation. Because how many times have we said it, guys, on the bus? We're sick of these defeats we get, and then after it's all the patronising. Luka Modric or Verratti, whoever it is, comes away from the game going, oh, we really loved our time at Celtic Park. And it gets like putting wee fancy graphics and shared all over Twitter, like the quote and stuff like that. And it's like, we don't want that anymore. We want teams to be deathly afraid of coming to Celtic Park like they were in the 2000s under Martin O'Neill and Gordon Strachan. Teams like Bayern Munich were all rolling in, Man United. We didn't fear them at all. Nowadays, it's all, happy to be here. Oh, Real Madrid are in town.
Push, mate.
30 killed fish.
That's that. No, I'm sick of being a bucket list venue for travelling teams as well. Let's face it, that's what we are.
Agreed.
And
totally agreed.
Again, it doesn't go down as being a popular opinion. Do I think Celtic are a Champions League team? Honestly, no. We are, because we deserve to be there, and that's how the coefficient works. But is that actually our level that I feel that we could properly make a fist at it? No, I don't. I think probably the Europa League is, but we should be obviously looking to get into the Champions League first and foremost, secure that money, tool ourselves up to try and do well on that, whether that's sneaking a second or indeed getting third and then dropping down to what's probably more our level and pushing on for there. But it's all going to be about the draw, isn't it? It's the luck of the draw, because we're sitting here talking about we want to be, more tooled up, have a more sort of pragmatic approach to it, try to find ways to get ourselves over the line and do a job. But let's face it, it's down to whatever that draw is. It's very well saying that. If we get the 3 hardest teams in each pot, what are people going to say? Because we should be dreaming and we should want the best, but you've also got to get realistic. If you pick the top 3 teams out of every single pot, I don't care how positive you are. Sometimes you've just got to put your hands in your head and head in your hands and go, for fuck's sake. Celtic doing Celtic things, Celtic getting Celtic draws. But it's going to be down to how the manager tools us up. It's going to be down to how the players perform. And I saw a couple of comments going round. I just want to quickly flash into, because we spoke about guys that have maybe caught an eye, and Hatate's name's come up a few times. Are you reading into this? Some people are suggesting that he doesn't look bothered, that he looks a bit, disenfranchised, he looks a bit disillusioned, he looked a bit off the boil, wasn't celebrating goals, just turning away, looking a wee bit fed up. Do you think there's maybe something going on under there? Is he somebody that there could be a late approach for at all? Do you think there's anything in that, Boycey?
I don't know about that. But what I do think is, see, when you look at, I'm watching the live comments as well, by the way, as we're discussing all this, and I just think that one of the things when it comes to Europe is when we contrast and compare this or the previous season that's just been, we look at that group, and again, it sounds like I'm being dismissive because it's Ange and he left and all this shite. Here's a question, I'll put it straight to the judge. Brendan Rodgers gets more points than 2 points with last season's team than what Ange got. I am now of the opinion that Ange was selling himself in the Champions League, not Celtic. The points didn't matter as much to Ange, provided his brand came across. I feel it was a Postecoglou production, because never in my history of supporting Celtic has 2 points in any fucking group, Stevo, been acceptable.
No.
Never. That group in particular, Phil's talking about, people used to fear coming to Celtic Park. Shakhtar Donetsk, we didn't even play away. We played them in a neutral venue. Pumped them for 45 minutes, only got 1 goal in OG, and then shat the bed. But he stuck to his philosophy. We got hammered 5-0 off Real Madrid, or 5-1, whatever it was. Stuck to our philosophy. I feel that Brendan will want the best results for Celtic and then let his reputation grow as a vehicle from that, as opposed to it being the other way around. I feel that Ange went in to Europe very much the same way he went to the World Cup with Australia.
I was just going to say that.
And it's a salesman's approach. It is, this is how I play. Can you imagine me with better players? Look at me. It's no danger.
He sacrificed Australia, boys. He sacrificed Australia for his own promotion. He sacrificed any chance of
They got pumped in that World
I know
Cup.
he did. And then, but see if you look back at that, the biggest take from their performance was, they get beat three times, but what a performance that was by the manager and the players.
Sound familiar?
And I thought to myself, you mentioned that's twice you've mentioned it now, and I'm like, I'm going to mention that and you beat me to it, because I was thinking the same way. Because
good,
if somebody can manage to lose 3 matches and still come out smelling their roses, they've won that battle. They have won the battle, because, as you said last season, Celtic won very little plaudits in Europe because they were pretty poor. Let's be totally frank about it, right? But 45 minutes aside against Real Madrid. But there was a lot of emphasis on, Celtic are improving under Ange, and Ange will take this group of players with a few additions to the next level. It was all about what Ange was doing. I don't see any plaudits for the Celtic team at all. I think he was a bit all about Ange. I really don't think he was the guy that some has made him out to be. I really do not. Call me cynical and call me the ex, but I saw right through it for a long time, and I definitely think the Australia, like the Australia kind of.
Mark, do you know about his time as under-21 manager?
Aye, it's been 11 years there.
Two campaigns for the World Cup. He was playing teams like Kuwait, Fiji. 2 failed qualifying campaigns for a World Cup where you are the biggest fish by a mile in that pond. Like, by a mile. And that, again, was based on a philosophy, a style of play. He will then take you on a journey where he says, well, we won the Asian Cup. First time Australia had ever done it. In my opinion, that's failings on the whoever's been Australia manager before, because other than South Korea and Japan, there ain't much competition. You're part of a 3-way battle then, and I would have expected Australia to have done better. Again, it's not trying to be snide. I'm just trying to be balanced. I think when we look at the hurdles that are going to come our way, Stevo, I found it refreshing today that Brendan's already talking about, whether I think naughtily there's a few digs there. I do believe that when he's talking about the flexibility, he is talking about maybe going, if we're at home to Real Madrid or we're away to Real Madrid, I won't play the same way I play at home to Ross County this weekend. I am going to adapt. And adapting is something that our flexibility being the more in vogue terminology. That's what he's alluding to, Stevo. And I think Europe that way gives me more hope. I look at when we're under Rodgers, let's just get one thing clear. He beat Leipzig. I was there. Shakhtar Donetsk, I would compare them with an Anderlecht who he went and pumped 3-0 away from home in the Champions League. There are examples where it looks like his European record's terrible. There are examples to suggest differently. Ange's European record at Celtic was utterly dreadful. No two ways. It is an embarrassment. He went out to Bodo Glimt for Norway. Fuck knows even if they're all full time. I know one guy got linked with Roma, went to Roma. Woohoo.
They had a budget smaller than Ross County's. I think with the Ross County was the only team in the SP. It was the only team in the Premier League that had a budget that matched theirs for being the lowest. And
it wasn't just that.
At the end, it was amazing. But
Leverkusen away, mate. Leverkusen away, we were 2-1 up. Remember, we were 2-1 up against Leverkusen away.
Right.
Any manager, you said about in-game management, Mark. In-game management will be where I think you'll see we've upgraded our manager this year. Because if we go 2-1 up away to the likes of Leverkusen, we'll stay 2-1 up.
See, with the likes of this,
3-2.
Here's something I want to throw at you, Phil, because we're obviously we're bringing it back and we're talking about previous manager and how they performed, and we're pinning a lot of hope on a rejuvenated or a refreshed, a new Brendan Rodgers doing better things when it comes to Europe. And rightfully again, so you've seen a lot of naysaying in the comments. You said this when Brendan Rodgers came in the door. Because of the way he left and how he split that fan base right down the middle.
Yeah.
He came in with a target in his back and one
Yeah.
hand tied behind his back, even at domestic level, to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
We get asked a question after the Bilbao game where someone asked us, would Ange Postecoglou get more time, more favours with the signings that have come in so far, as opposed to how it's been treated with Rodgers? We said, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask you the question, with regards to Europe, what's going to be the measuring stick for him? Because if he says he could draw the 3 worst teams in every single pot, what can he do? Because let's face it, he's already gone in with a red dot on his forehead before a ball's been kicked, before a team's been drawn. And we're hoping, it is hope, and it's, try to be positive and say we think. We don't know. But what can he do? Is he in a lose-lose situation regardless?
The bare minimum we've got to have is European football after Christmas, where we're still in the Champions League. If we do get a favourable draw and somehow sneak through in second place, some teams have done it with 7 points before. It's
if Celtic get 3 points as opposed to 2 points, it's better, isn't it?
Is that fair, Phil?
In comparison to last season, but
no, so this is what I mean. But if he gets 3 points,
but if we still finish bottom though, then it's
right, 3 points. It's maybe a great manager. Do you see what I mean? So he could technically do better, still not achieve a lot, and still be slagged off. So
the group was worse.
It's the manner of it, though. It's the manner of it. It's are you trying to win a game, or are you just going? We play one way, and we're gonna have an identity. I don't give a fuck about your identity. I don't give monkeys about that. In sport, for me, it's about winning. And I think Brendan's alluded to that a couple of times as well. The first thing you know when you come to Celtic, it is about winning first and foremost, and then trying to do it in a style that the fans like. But first and foremost, their priority is winning. Ange prioritised the philosophy and the style of football and the identity of the team. That is a manager's self-indulgence, not Celtic, first and foremost, in my opinion.
To come back to it and he just top it off then, I don't want anyone to, quote, get a pass, but does he get a pass? Does he get his chance to show what he's got in his first season back, regardless of how much money's in the bank, how much money we may well spend, and who he is? Does he get that same Ange, it's his first season, or is it hit the ground running, mate?
Well, after what's been said in the summer, people are going to hold that against him, regardless of what happens here, But the problem he's got is there's big changes coming with the European football structure in the next year. This is the last chance. People, there is fans that have said over the summer that they think they're buying into what Brendan said about real progress in Europe, and I've even heard some talk about European finals, Europa League finals. Well, with the new structure that's coming in this season, realistically, is the last chance we would have to get that, because in the future there's no more drop down from the Champions League. So if Celtic were ever to get to a Europa League final, we have to lose our domestic league to get into the Europa League now, and that just ain't an option. That is not an option when you're the Celtic manager. Obviously up against them, it's like we can't let them win the title. The money's too much as well to let away. So this is basically the only season he's got a shot of really Europa League glory, because next season, when it's the 36 team tournament and the Europa League's going to the same format as well, it's he's no good at it. So in terms of this season, as you said, if he gets 3 points, okay, it's better than what happened last season. But what if we still finish bottom? That's not progress. It needs to be some kind of European football after Christmas where we do finish third, or we do sneak through in second in the group. But the problem is as well, if everyone's targeting third, and realistically, yes, we've probably got a better chance of doing something in the Europa League. But the conundrum is, how do you finish third? You can't really target it. You just need to go out and just win as many points as you can and just hope that it works out. I mean, we've seen in the past as well where Celtic have finished groups with 9 points and have still went out, and that went through to the next round and stuff like that. Some weird things can happen. We've seen teams qualify for the next round of the Champions League with 7 points. So Celtic just need to, and you said it earlier on, Stevo, and you're right, it's all about the draw. We'll know in, 4 weeks tonight, I believe the draw is 31st August. So it's like, we'll know then. We just need to wait then. We can only just do hypotheticals just now, but yeah, that's where the key is, and we'll just take it from there. But at the moment, in terms of what would be a success, he's going to get us into Europe in the second half of the season, and we have to start winning some knockout games. But of course, winning the Champions League, winning a few knockout games there, Europa League might have a chance, but Champions League, I think we would just be making up the numbers in the round of 16 if we got through. I know that's not the best mentality to have, but I'm just being realistic with that one. I just think we would just get horsed in the next round. So, but we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes, mate. All about the draw.
Well, from the fantasy thoughts, say what might happen in Europe, let's get back down to the nitty-gritty, the bread and butter, as Brendan says, because a few days away for that flag getting unfurled. Champions again, party at 12:30, hopefully in the sun, not in the piss rain. Manager's first competitive game back. Is it going to be a full house? I don't know, maybe, we'll see. But it's team selection, isn't it? He's alluded there's going to be things happening. I said it before, I'd rather win sooner than later. But first 3 games, even 4th game, do I think what's currently in the squad's enough to get us over the line for those? You do. But what's it going to be? How are we going to shape up? We've seen the chopping and changing. We've seen guys come back. We've seen guys get outcast. How do you think we're going to shape up? And what are you expecting for the first competitive game? Because it's pre-season's dipping your toe in the water, isn't it? It's playing about with the systems, playing about with the formulas. You guys have been attending. Marc, are you expecting it to be a statement, Brendan's back, a Ridro arse getting dealt out to the opposition and smiles all around?
Oh, I'd expect so against Ross County, mate. Aye, definitely. I think we'll unfold the flag. That gets the temperatures rising, ramped up the atmosphere, etc. And I think we will put a show on. I think we will see a more settled defence, which is crucial, I feel. We'll probably see a glimpse into what's going to happen in midfield. I'm still not sure where he's going in midfield. I'm not entirely sure what's happening yet. I'm not all that convinced McGregor's in the right role yet, but what the hell do I know? But I think it'll be basically the same team as last season. We'll not get into that, but it'll be a different kind of look a wee bit. I don't think he's changed an awful lot. I think he's made the minor tweaks, but I think the more things you'll see is how he manages the game out and things like that. I want to see how Celtic are playing full pelt, because pre-season, as we've all said, it's no results probably aren't all that important, but the performances I do think count. But this should be Celtic at full pelt. I know it's only Ross County, but you've got to put a statement out there. It's the first game of the season. You're at home. You're the champions. Everybody else is supposed to follow your lead, and Celtic have got to come out there. And I'm expecting Celtic to just really go for it. I'm talking about everybody at their A game. Don't forget, Carter Vickers and Ralston are just returned for injury, so they need time to bed in. Let's not just expect these guys to be on it 100%. Although I was kind of impressed with Carter Vickers, of course, on Wednesday night, and again Ralston, I felt Tuesday night, and again Ralston, I felt played pretty good in the second half. I thought he played a big role in Celtic's equaliser as well, or was it the winner? Sorry. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm really up. I know my face sometimes when they say that, but I'm looking forward to it. And I would just quickly touch on what speaking a minute ago about Europe. I don't think it's fair to expect inverted in quotation marks, sorry, Celtic to finish third in a Champions League group. I think there's 2 factors: the opposition, the group we get, and also even if we get a draw that's favourable, this is still a team that Brendan's has to knit in together. Maybe he's not got his number 1 targets yet, you know what I mean? And maybe they might come in January. Maybe let's just give a guy, I'm not saying give a guy a season, but I think a wee bit of grace now. We beat Anderlecht away. Man City home and away, I felt like they could have got 6 points in those matches. I feel like still we could have got 6 points. Bayern Munich, Phil's right, we should have got a point. In these 3 years, we got to the group stages twice, I believe, in different competitions. If that's no some level of success in Europe, I don't know. Now, everybody, including me, vilifies Neil Lennon. But that guy got us into group stages, out of group stages in Europe, all over the place. Good results, a few bad ones, but nobody mentions that when you mention his criteria or his Celtic management style. So how can we bring in that side when you mentioned Brendan Rodgers? You can't have it both ways. You can't say Neil Lennon was shite to win and no mention the fact he was good in Europe, and you can't say Brendan Rodgers was great but he was shite in Europe. When the truth's probably in the middle, I thought Neil Lennon was great and spells as a Celtic manager, stayed too long, shouldn't get a second chance. Brendan Rodgers, I think if you actually looked at the actual results now, we mentioned the humpings we got. This is who we were up against in the big humpings. Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Cavani. Before you get in the midfields and defences. What more do you expect when that second season he had Emilio Izaguirre coming back, Jeremy Toljan coming in, fucking Johnny Hayes. I mean, what do you expect? We were where we were, and what happened is what happened. I don't think any Celtic manager, no matter their CV, should be solely judged on Europe. I think he's definitely got a vision where he's going to make Celtic better. But I don't think we should expect as such. I know slagging Phil at all there. I don't think we should expect to get out of the group stages this year. I think if we see Celtic playing a different style of football, no getting horsed, be happy to sit back in certain stages, take points away from home, that is progression. You don't go from 0 to 100 straight away. You got to go up the gears. Brendan Rodgers, bring him on, man. I can't wait.
No, I like that. I like a bit of positive, Mark. That's what I like to see. See, he's on. He does get positive. You just don't know. You just see him. But no, on the coasting on the positivity train, we'll go straight down to the boss man there on the bottom. But where are you placed going this season? We say we've been cool, we've been relaxed. You pretty much predict much like Marc's saying. Are you expecting a very much settled side that we've got? Or has there been anything that you think is going to be a wee change? Or is it just going to be the forced changes like, we don't have Johnson, for example?
Yeah. I think the biggest changes will be who he brings in the next 3 weeks. I think right now he is so well versed. This is a guy with vast experience in this league, successful experience in this league. He knows he has what it takes to overcome the initial hurdles. Whilst he's doing that, he's going to be focused on two jobs: preparing teams for match days and preparing a squad for the Champions League. This is what's happening. I also want to flip it a wee bit as well. Brendan might be walking into the best storyline of all time. He might be walking in knowing, no one knows the pitfalls of Champions League qualification more than Brendan. 2 successful ones, 1 unsuccessful one. If you noticed, he was asked about it midweek and he almost rolled his eyes as he says, it's great not to be involved in 6 or 8 qualifiers. And you went, you can almost see her saying, that was a drain on me. That was Brendan Rodgers at his peak Celtic time. Had to deal with those. A rookie manager is about to enter into that prism. His first ever European outings as a manager. He is about to walk the gauntlet, having been backed more than Gio was, having qualified for the Champions League last year.
Yes.
We could end up going to Ibrox with, I believe, 1, if not 2, box office signings made. Certainly, at the very least, 3 or 4 Brendan Rodgers signings made. But we could be going to Ibrox against a team already out of Europe, out of the Champions League, not with the money that they've invested being repaid. A weak, wounded animal, and they are animals, wounded animal. And Brendan will smell that a mile off. He'll walk in going, they're there for the kill. And I think this whole narrative of how this season is going to play out, whether it'll be the same old or whatever, I think team-wise, we're going to see big changes. But I actually think the whole narrative of this season will be dictated the early bells. And I think we'll see it and how they actually live up to the expectations they've now put on themselves, because they're boasting about the expenditure. Sky Sports are even saying it's a £12 million signing. They can't even put a dot between the 1 and the 2 and tell you it's a £1.2 million signing. I think they are very much in a wave of optimism and they think they've spent way more than what they probably actually have, because it'll be over 45 million instalments, the money that's been spent so far, but it ramps up inadvertently pressure on them. And these qualifiers are notoriously difficult. Better Celtic sides have struggled. A manager with never managed a European game in his life is about to embark on Servette and then a playoff. Then we come to town. You tell me how this storyline is going to pan out. I don't think it's going to be as positive as they think. I think all the pressure's on them. I think Brendan's sitting back right now with a big cigar going, that's my targets. That's who I want. And by the way, I've got a feeling they might have already fucked up themselves before that trip to Ibrox comes around. And see when he smells blood, he will not miss. He does not miss. And he will take full advantage.
Look at this. Yeah, look at this. The positivity rolls on.
Yes, Pam.
Pam.
10 pounds. Love it.
Love it. Nah, listen, you Phil, yourself, you know, that's the kind of positive we're talking about. You know, Boyce makes a good point. We're getting a new season. There's been a lot said, probably rightfully so. Well, maybe not rightfully so, but why? Because their manager's been in the press talking about it all the time, and you know, got some Finpas coming in, £12, you know. So the point is, they've been doing a lot of talking. They've been watering a lot of pieces, trying to get folk involved. Is that something that we may be sitting here talking about? Rodgers coming in with a target on his back and one hand tied behind, talking about pressure on him. Is that self-generated pressure? Is that in our subconscious where we're thinking that? Is the pressure actually all on Rangers? Is Boyce making a point here? Have they given so much big licks, more than usual? And I say more than usual because there's been actual cash money attached to the licks. Is there more pressure and expectation on them?
100%. I'll use this is a wrestling term that you'll understand, Stevo. Brendan's got money in the bank. He's got credit in the bank. Because he proved it already. When he stood there in his press conference when he got unveiled a couple of months ago, and he stood outside the stadium and said, you know, for all the fans that doubt me, I'll see you here next May. And I know that lot across the city will be like, oh, pin that in the dressing room and all that. But the guy's got the credentials to back it up. He's already done it up here. He's perfectly entitled to, unlike who you're alluding to, Mr. Beale, who's just mouthing off constantly. It's all he's done since he's came in constantly. And they're still harping on about that game at the end of last season and so on. And no matter how many times you tell them, they're like, look, we won the league. You can point to so many examples over the last decade, even longer, of the team that does win the last Glasgow derby. It usually means fuck all the next season because the other team will just go and win the title anyway. There's some examples, but again, what they tend to do is just stick their fingers in their ears and go, I'm not listening, Timmy. Sweep, not listening to that at all. It's always the same with them, so there's no point in even trying to argue them. You're better off just arguing with a brick wall at times when it comes to that. The pressure is all on them. They've got the point to prove. Obviously, it'll be at their ground, and as far as we know, none of our fans will be there. So that's obviously something as well. So we'll go in there, and yeah, if they are a broken team after failing that Champions League qualification, because again, they've thrown a lot of money at this rebuild. We did talk about, you know, the whole rebuild that they need to go through, and I know some fans may be a bit subconsciously like seeing them doing stuff and wondering, why are we not so busy? They needed to have a big rebuild. Yeah. We didn't. But if these prices that are being quoted are true, and to be fair, they're probably not, but they are spending something. They're getting money from somewhere. They need to bring that back in somehow. Mm-hmm. So they need the Champions League, just like John Dal Thomason said when he walked into Ibrox a couple of years ago for that qualifying. He went, I think they need the money, don't they? You're clever guys, you can figure it out. I think they need that. So that's exactly the same scenario here, because if they don't qualify for that Champions League and get all the riches, then how are they going to supplement all of that? So the pressure's on them. If they are broken after that, then my God, it's just going to pile up on them. And we walk in there on September the 3rd, and it's like, you know what? We fancy this. And again, a wee bit of adversity for us. There's no fans there. That'll probably, give us that. We get our backs up a wee bit. I think Brendan Rodgers and the team will thrive on stuff like that. So it could be a perfect storm for us walking in there in terms of the environment. We can take advantage of it.
There's a movie, Phil, to be played out that we're not a part of. that will very much have an impact on the proceedings at Ibrox, I think. And I do get the points that have been made. Like, these are difficult games, and with the current squad, we could be doing better. I also think we'll have our house together by then. I think there will be moving parts in the window that we'll see that we'll get our shit together. And I also think there's just a wee area where other stuff that we can't actually influence will occur one way or the other. I just have a feeling, and I said this last season, he didn't win a trophy. He's setting himself up for a fall left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
This time, it's actually not the fans that have, as much as they will believe it all anyway, but the board have believed him.
Yeah.
The board have went right in on his pish. He will be found out. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if this time around when he's found out, it's before even the first derby.
Well,
It's actually by the European fairs.
Pressure about, you've just touched on the pressure having to get through it, having to get this money, having to bring in the cash that they've spent. There's double pressure that could be a front, and it'd be something that'd be lovely to have, wouldn't it? As much as I don't want them to qualify, because I don't want them to get the Champions League money, and I don't want the big games. If they play on a Sunday, wouldn't that be nice? Imagine the notion of a couple of weeks of them playing on the Sunday, playing a Saturday. Wouldn't that be interesting for double pressure?
Oh, Steve, what will happen is they'll move our game to the Sunday at like 3 o'clock and they'll still play at like 12:30 on the Sunday. Just something like that will happen. You just know what it's like. Would they surprise you?
See, this is the thing.
Surprising. But
every trick in the fucking book, they've already got Greg Aitken and Hugh Dallas's boy in charge of the VAR.
You shared the photo, Mark, of the profile picture of that assistant is him laughing with Ali McCoist when he was manager, which was 7-8 years ago.
And Ali McCoist and his Rangers tie. He knows if it's Ali McCoist and his Scotland get up, or Ali McCoist is a Kilmarnock player, or a whatever you name, whatever you said, whatever you want to say. I mean, can you imagine this? Flip this. Can you imagine he was pictured with Neil Lennon and his tracksuit as a Celtic manager? That would go doing like a lead balloon for every set of fan base in this full country, except Celtic fans. In fact, probably Celtic fans as well, let's be honest. But it's, I mean, that's the guy who was in charge of the Celtic game at Hampden against Kilmarnock, and his profile it says born in Kilmarnock, work in Kilmarnock, youth player. And if we put, I mean, even if you forget the fact that he is 110 million% a Rangers fan, that's just, if you say you're a Hearts fan, you're a Rangers fan, same as a Kilmarnock fan. We all know that, right? Let's not kid ourselves on here. You're all Rangers fans, but they're not even hiding it now. I mean, Hugh Dallas, we all know who he is, and his boy's just as bad, I'm pretty sure. I mean, not only was his boy that bad a referee that he was taken away for big matches, he's been promoted to be the part of the double act is going to be in situ in Clydesdale House, which is actually a caravan that's fucking outside Pittodrie half the time. I mean, this is the utter redneck of Scottish football. I mean, we're trying to promote the football, and this is what podcasts like this do. And you've got clubs refusing to sell tickets to fans. You've got the big clubs know what to give away allocations to their rivals. You've got CEOs having a Celtic tax when you're trying to buy players. You've got the SFA making an arse of every sponsorship deal, and you've got the SFA on the back of last season when every single pundit,
Viaplay as well,
right? Everybody last season, boys, every pundit, every manager, every supporter was very dubious about the decisions Rangers were getting. They were all saying they were Rangers orientated, and to back that up, they've done a process during the summertime. They thought, right, how can we fix this issue? Okay, let's make 2 Rangers fans in charge of fucking VAR. That is their solution to perceived Rangers bias. That and quote unquote, there's now an arm's length review after each match and complaint by managers. So it's either you've got a complaint, there's going to be an arm's length review.
Wow.
To me, that sounds to me like you won't find out what was said, but we'll just give you the answer. If your official statement uses the term arm's length policy, that tells me that you're not going to be involved. Very clever.
Find
Very clever, mate.
I find that bizarre. If that's factual, I don't know where you've seen that, Mark.
So you go on to Twitter, mate, you'll just see the SFA's announcement that they've...
Twitter's not always my best source for fun.
No, of course.
I'm joking.
Well, you're probably right. That's the SFA's official...
They tweeted it.
About and read it. In fact, the very last sentence might interest you. They said that the referees will be adding on time, no for time wasting, but for goal celebrations.
Fuck me.
That's coming out in England as well.
Mental.
They're trying to copy the World Cup in November.
Time wasting for me, I see the merit, okay? Because you can do 3 minutes. You see a goal celebration, what are you talking there? 40 seconds and the referee saying you got the park.
Yep.
And that's just par for the course. We saw Motherwell last season, I think it was probably the worst I've ever seen. It was a match I think they might have drew with them. And my God, they spent about, I'm going to say half an hour, I'm not going to lie, throwing the ball at the park, sitting down in the grass, just every wee dirty tactic. And I'm not against clubs using the best possible ways to get points. But just say back to my original point. They spent all the summertime taking feedback from clubs, looking at the perceived Rangers bias, and they backed it up by hiring 2, on the face it, Rangers fans. Is that where we are as a country in terms of football, that we don't give a fuck what the people think about us? And sporting integrity is just something that's an add-on in this country. It's not something that's a expectation. I just think anybody that's known Hugh Dallas will know his history. I mean, he's sending emails, racist jokes about Catholics, and he was the stuff about him.
The effigies of the Pope and stuff. These are facts, by the way. We're allowed to discuss this because these are facts.
But this is fact. Well, this is fact, boys. And God bless Craig Brown. I'm pretty sure he had a good turnout. But don't forget, this is the same guy who was sending voice notes on the old-fashioned voice note, the old-fashioned voice recorders years ago to a birthday. He was pumping, singing the Billy Boys, singing Up to Knees and Fiending Blood. That's the same guy who was still the Scotland manager at the time. He survived that. Can you imagine? I'll say Neil Lennon because he's quite divisive. Can you imagine Neil Lennon singing IRA songs? Can you imagine?
Well, look at the current Scotland manager, Steve Clark.
Would you have survived that? Would you have? No.
Go on, Phil.
Steve Clark gets it tight, especially off the Rangers fans, because of his Celtic upbringing. So there's the current Scotland manager can even fall in that category. Could you imagine Steve Clark doing that? Celtic equivalent.
He'd be gone. He'd be gone. Can you imagine that today? They call him Father Clancy, even though he clearly doesn't like Celtic either. Can you imagine they appointed Clancy and maybe? And by the way, so part of this process, this is all on their official website.
We found Marc's special subject tonight. Eh?
Oh no,
he's on fire.
No, and part of the process, they've listened to players, they've listened to managers. So what they've done is as part of the reviews panel and the IFAB experts, there's going to be ex-managers and ex-players and ex-referees amongst the review panel. But I know that's going to be Gordon Smith and Chris Boyd on that fucking review panel, by the way. And if I recall, he's busy, they're bringing in Terry Hullett. Chris Boyd. I'm telling you, or Terry Butcher.
What do you make though, very quickly on Boyd and Sutton, Stevo? That'll be giddy. That will be box. Sutton and Chris Boyd. That's going to be that is the best signing of the summer so far.
It's going to be fun, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be like any time. You could bring in anybody and put them next to Chris Boyd and see that the guy's absolutely clueless, but it's going to have plenty of needle, isn't it? It's going to be entertaining and it's going to balance it out, because let's face it, if Sutton and him are going to be the ever present on that panel, then at least you've got something to look forward to rather than being treated to a who's a VBT yesteryear. So I take that as you find it. But on the just before we sort of finish off, the VAR thing is the VAR thing. Just a quick point I flashed up there. There's been no real suggestions of it. We've seen it briefly in action. Is that the only thing that's potentially going to save face and stop the paranoia? Is audio the only way to even it up, if you want to even use that term?
I don't think so, because what we've found is they will find avenues, highways, and byways of justifying bad decisions for Rangers. We've seen
He is
excuses being
right.
made
He
for
is
us,
right.
and you don't get the same excuses for Celtic. The one word they always say, boys, what is it they kept on saying? Subjective. They say that.
The subjective season we called it
Aye.
last summer on the
Yeah,
bus.
and
Remember that?
Yep.
Though, there's also the change to the offside, the way that they're going to run the offside now with the drawing with the lines and stuff. Don't know if you've seen the graphics that they're saying it's supposedly now going to be very much more cut and dry, your full body's offside type of pattern.
Right.
So we'll see how that works or doesn't work.
I mean,
You know what I
benefit
mean?
neither.
Mines didn't work one day and the camera was facing down the M8 somewhere, I don't know.
Oh, God.
So we'll get to that.
That
Anyway,
was the way that was described as a joke, like fucking, the other camera was off, and then it cannot be wrong. These are literally set in stone lines that it cannot be proven to be wrong. Listen to what you're saying, like it's just nonsense. But anyway,
Camera was
we're
off.
positive, Steve. You
before
take
we
it away.
finish wrap this up, just want to thank everybody that's joined us. Over 300 still sitting with us, almost an hour and a half down the line. The season rolls on. The anticipation's building. I just want to be quick, as I always do. I'll be quick round robin round here. So, I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions. I'm going to ask you for the weekend. I want a wee score prediction. I want a player prediction. That can be whatever you want. It can be Kyogo to score 30. It could be such and such with player Hingway. And I want a surprise package. So we'll start top and I'll work my way around. So Phil, hit me with your first or your sports score prediction for that weekend, and then tell me your other 2.
Well, Stevo, I think that Celtic will win 4-0 on Saturday. I'm going for a resounding 4. My surprise package, I've mentioned him a couple of times on the show recently. I have a feeling that Dyson Maeda is going to be that guy that in a year's time we're going to be sitting here going, wow, I cannot believe the season that Dyson Maeda's just had. I've got a feeling that he's going to be that guy. And in terms of, what was the other one? Just who's going to be an outstanding player this season?
Just give me it can be any sort of one-off prediction for a player. It could be Kyogo to Golden Boot or whatever you want it to be.
I think Abada will score a significant number of goals. I think 20 plus goals for Abada this season as well. Yeah.
Adding more goals would be certainly good to a wee bit of physicality that we've seen from him. Are you going to keep the positivity rolling, Mark? Are you on that Dyson train? Do you think he's going to be the man?
I think it'll be 4-0 Celtic Saturday, and I think the surprise package will be the Sugar Puff Monster scoring a scorpion kick at Celtic Park at least once this season. I'm taking that to the bank.
Remember that?
Having Kevin Keegan in the advert, yes. Aye.
Those were the days, weren't they? Bring them back.
The Sugar. I will say, I think Brendan will start with a 5-1. I think there'll be a moment that will lead to it's underwhelming, and then we'll just smash them. I don't know if they'll take the lead, or it'll be maybe go 1-1, or maybe even a 2-0 with 2-1, but something to go, holy shit, this isn't quite what we thought, and then we'll just do what needs to be done. As for player of the weekend, it will undoubtedly be Terry Robb making his return to PMP. There is no other man of the match this weekend. The man of the milk will be back this weekend, and that will be undeniably Celtic's player of the weekend.
What was that song with Ernie, the milk cart?
Ernie the fastest milkman in the West.
We'll just call him Ernie for now on.
He drives the fastest van in the land or something.
Benny Hill, Ernie the fastest milkman in the West. It was Benny Hill.
That's it.
And his love triangle. What was the guy? The Duke of Pumpleton or something like that. The guy who he was up against for the chatty. Watch the video with the song. It's brilliant. What a video it is. Sorry, carry on.
I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. My favourite score right now. It's going to be 3-0. We're just going to coast it. It's going to be comfortable. I think the surprise package is even though you aren't ready on, McCarthy's going to play a couple of games here and there.
That would be a surprise. Oh my God.
A couple of games here and there.
Yes, I do think Kyogo is going to comfortably eclipse what he did this season, but he's going to do it as part of a 2 up front. So there you go. So anyway, thanks again for joining us. Is there anything on tomorrow, guys? Can we let people know? Is there a Friday night show going to be happening? Do we know yet, or is it going to be suck it and see?
Very much in the words of Kenny Dalglish of All Knowing Excuse, maybe's aye, maybe's no. I'm still trying to get some stuff sorted out regarding nostalgia. I've got ideas and things in the pipeline, but its availability at the moment is a bit of a problem, so I'll try to get something sorted. But yeah, at the moment it's a suck it and see, as you said.
But from my point of view, it's very tricky. I've started a new job over the last 3 weeks, which I've kind of kept downbeat on the bus. But Friday nights are going to be very much my going out night with the boss, pretty much. So availability is not going to be there. I just need to be honest on that. It's going to be very tricky for me to find Fridays available, to be honest. From
well, the bus will roll on a new season.
Nostalgia will have a form, of course.
Everybody's going to be back, hopefully positive for the weekend, and the return of Terry Robb. Bookmark it, get it, anticipation builds. It's going to be a belter. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever you're doing, and let's go for the weekend. See you all later.
See you later, guys.